In January 2024, Elon Musk's confidant Embodied offshore and several Tesla manufacturing executives flew to Shanghai, guided by Tom Zhu, head of Tesla's China and North America automotive operations. They test drove 8 Chinese new energy vehicles. The following month, Musk summoned dozens of senior executives to a meeting and told them the $25,000 car in development, the Model 2, codenamed NV91, was being scrapped. 2 months later, a large share of those executives, along with tens of thousands of their subordinates, were laid off. When insiders later recounted this upheaval to us, they lamented Musk's helplessness against Chinese manufacturing. But looking back 2 years later, what drove him to quit and pivot to autonomous vehicles and robots may have been the helpless outlook of an entire industry, something meaningful, yet almost impossible to differentiate, an endless race of low-price competition that leads nowhere. Just as Tesla was preparing mass layoffs, Li Auto's market cap surged to 350 billion yuan, roughly $48 billion, and the Xiaomi SU7 was launched. By the end of 2024, BYD employed close to 1 million people and posted an annual net profit exceeding 40 billion yuan, about $5.5 billion. At that year's Beijing Auto Show, scalpers charged 1,000 to 1,500 yuan per person to smuggle in over 100 buy-side analysts who couldn't get passes. By the following year's Beijing Auto Show, more than a dozen auto analysts from major institutions whom the late post team knew, not a single one showed up. This auto industry is so damn cutthroat. It's brutal that I'm basically only looking at AI now, one of them said. Only one of them was still covering autos, and he was watching Doubao auto concept stocks. In the first 5 months of this year, China's auto consumption fell 11.8% year-on-year, dragging down overall retail sales. BYD's and Xiaomi's latest quarterly profits dropped more than 50%. And Li Auto fell into a loss. Compared with their market cap peaks over the past 2 years, the smallest decline among the three was over 40%. People in the auto industry can't pivot as easily as finance professionals. But smart driving engineers are among the few with options. Out of 18 smart driving engineers one of our colleagues interviewed, 12 changed careers in the past year, and almost all of them moved to embodied AI companies. The most influential auto suppliers have started shifting toward more promising sectors. Intel made consecutive investments in data centers and their power suppliers, and plans to participate in DeepSeek's first funding round. Innovance Technology derives 45% of its revenue from the automotive business. Yet at its latest shareholder meeting, nobody asked about cars. Everyone was far more concerned about data centers, overseas energy storage, and how many motors a humanoid robot needs. Automakers can't stop making cars, but they are also looking elsewhere. A widely watched move from Xiaomi was the launch of a large language model after former DeepSeek researcher Luo fully joined the company. Early this year, Li Xiang held an all-staff AI strategy meeting and reorganized R&D personnel according to the approach of collaboratively building silicon-based life. Not long after, He Xiaoping changed the name Xpeng Motors to Xpeng Group and announced plans to launch humanoid robots and flying cars. The founders of China's new auto brands continue to display fighting spirit in public. Several CEOs in their 40s or 50s personally drove hundreds or even over 1,000 kilometers in live streams, some for 24 hours nonstop. Yet in private, when one of them talked with a friend about the end game of the industry and listed a few companies, His own was no longer among them. 2 years of relentless push had failed to make smart driving a real differentiator. I literally didn't get a single day off during Chinese New Year. A smart driving engineer at one auto brand recalled of the 2025 Spring Festival. The director at everyone in a WeChat group of over 1,000 people and declared a state of make or break push. After that, he got off work after 10 p.m. every day, and some colleagues were still working at 2 a.m. The only exception was New Year's Eve, when he left at 6 p.m. to have a reunion dinner with colleagues, then went right back to overtime the next day. The push was meant to mass-produce smart driving features faster and in greater numbers than competitors, but competitors were also pushing, with workdays stretching from 9 hours to 12 or more. The one chance for a breather came from road testing. 5 people crammed into a single test car, taking turns driving and resting, running the highway over and over. The overtime pay doubled his monthly salary. He had previously done computer vision at a small company and jumped into the auto industry in 2024, immediately getting a 30% pay bump before the explosion of large vision models. This had been the most mainstream path for computer vision engineers. To stand out. Most new energy brands treat smart driving as a core technology they must control in Dashhouse. At the height of competition, BYD, Huawei, Xpeng, and NIO each assembled smart driving teams of over 1,000 people. BYD and Huawei together were estimated at close to 10,000 people. One startup automaker could spend over $1 billion yuan a year just renting AI computing power, roughly equivalent to Li Auto's entire annual profit last year. Though the companies differed, the experiences of the engineers were similar. They all shared in smart driving's early dividends, salaries higher than other roles in the same automaker. Young engineers with 3 years of experience taking home $1 million yuan a year, doubling pay when changing jobs was common. Headhunter messages were so abundant, they became annoying. And they were all filled with the vision of helping transform how humans drive. One engineer, who had worked on driver assistance for years, left an automaker for a smart driving company in 2021, then jumped to another top smart driving firm 10 months later, moving from a second-tier city to a top-tier one, with his salary multiplying 2 or 3 times. At that time, he was doing L2 basic features, working from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., with the occasional weekend overtime. It was exhausting but promising. It always felt like there were so many more things to build, he said. Another engineer who moved from an internet company to an automaker felt he was part of the intelligent transformation of the car. Just imagine one day, on the roads, there are cars running code I wrote. Even a single drop of water shares in the glory. In 2023, the new auto brands conquered city NOA, automated driving in urban areas following navigation, city by city, just like internet companies fighting for market share. One person who lived through it said project leaders would sign written pledges, sometimes printed on cloth that looked like an imperial edict, sometimes on little red flags. The conference rooms for the perception, planning and control, mapping, and product teams were called war rooms. The make or break push felt like a ritual, he said. Automakers kept raising the stakes of these pushes. In 2024, Li Auto moved its R&D staff into hotels for several months of closed-door development. The default was 6 days a week, arriving by 9 a.m., leaving no earlier than 10 p.m., and even on Sundays they had to be on standby at the hotel. A few months later, BYD launched its smart driving for all Campaign Point 1 engineer calculated that more than 100 vehicle models needed to be equipped with smart driving. Test cars ran 24 hours in rotation. Sometimes the push stretched until 2 or 3 a.m., so he simply rented an apartment within a kilometer of the company. Abbreviations and acronyms kept popping up: Highway NOA, City NOA, End-to-End, VLA, World Models. And for years, automakers matched each other feature for feature in a race where everyone was terrified of falling behind at that time. The whole industry believed that whatever Tesla could do, they could do too. In February 2025, BYD launched D-Pilot, with the first 21 models all carrying advanced smart driving. The cheapest Seagull Smart Driving Edition, priced at just 78,800 yuan, about $10,800, also came with Highway Pilot Assist. For the price of an entire car, roughly equivalent to what Tesla charges just for its full self-driving software package in the United States. The idea that consumers will choose a brand because of smart driving never materialized. BYD sold over 7 million cars in 2023 and 2024 without advanced smart driving. Li Auto became the top-selling new automaker in 2023 without it. The FSD take rate for Tesla Model 3 and Model Y was only a little over 10%. Research firm Nielsen found that in car buying decisions, the weight of smart driving consistently ranked behind price, space, and exterior appearance. Frontline salespeople at brands such as BYD and Geely all encountered the same problem. After experiencing smart driving, consumers were not necessarily willing to pay extra. Instead, they would ask, "If I don't take the smart driving, can you knock 10,000 or 20,000 yuan off the price?" Smart driving has been pushed into a position akin to airbags or ABS, a feature the whole industry must keep up with. And it shattered the hope that automakers could use it to build real brand differentiation. In just 2 or 3 years, most smart driving engineers have lost their drive. Overtime has become a kind of performance to placate leadership. The engineer who once felt he shared in the glory now finishes dinner a little after 6 p.m., strolls around the campus until 7 or 8 p.m., then returns to the office and waits to clock out after 9 p.m. In his eyes, anyone who can last more than a year is a veteran. "I no longer demand of myself to put in more," he said. One mid-level manager knows his subordinates are performing and finds it absurd. "You could leave work early, go play sports, live your own life. Don't just hang around here wasting time." Yet he himself sometimes has to fake overtime. He also has leaders above him. In the past, a fair share of the exhaustion was eased by high pay. Now even the money is shrinking. A headhunter had to warn smart driving engineers hoping to switch jobs that right now, forget a raise. Even matching your current salary isn't guaranteed. One engineer, long mentally prepared to be laid off, bought his apartment back in his hometown. Once consumers became unwilling to pay a premium for smart driving, automakers quickly passed the pressure down to suppliers. An R&D engineer at a second-tier smart driving company recalled that when the industry was just taking off, colleagues used to feel that as long as they did good technology, that was enough. The clients were the ones begging us. Then we'd consider cooperation. Now, the boss has started drinking red wine with clients, too. As business cooled, engineers actually got a little more free time. One smart driving engineer who has been in the industry for nearly a decade started reading books and renting GPU cards, trying to understand the source code of end-to-end models. Renting one A100 costs 200 yuan, Spending a few thousand yuan to rent some cards, and you can study on your own that it's just about who moves faster. 3 years ago, we interviewed combustion engine engineers who had been upended by electric vehicles. They too wanted to transition to smart driving. One of them said that entering the engine field had coincided with the great growth of China's auto industry. He bought a home early, as if he had won the lottery. When EVs arrived, it was like buying a second lottery ticket and losing. You can't expect the good things to come your way every time. Selling cars became manual labor, and making cars entered a cost war in the combustion engine era. Vehicle models were graded A, B, C, D by wheelbase and size. The bigger, the more expensive that a bigger car needed a better engine and gearbox. Complex machinery created a moat that Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi long held the top tier of luxury cars with superior powertrains. Just as quartz watches replaced mechanical ones, electrification flattened the powertrain differences. Beyond smart driving, from Tesla to every new and legacy global automaker, all have tried desperately to find a differentiator as powerful as the engine once was, to escape the brutal involution. Before Musk seemingly capriciously halted development of the Model 2 and other subsequent vehicles, Tesla had built the high-speed sedan Model S Plaid, the Falcon Wing Door Model X, the stainless steel tough guy Cybertruck, developed the 4680 battery cell, the world's most advanced autonomous driving service FSD. It had tried everything from differentiated models to core technologies. Chinese brands have toured every possible vehicle form. Chery built the boxy, cute iCar. Li Auto launched the streamlined Mega. Huawei threw more than 10 times Tesla's manpower into smart driving. That BYD brought smart driving for all to cars priced under 80,000 yuan. From air suspension, Nappa leather, soft closed doors, 800V high-voltage platforms, to in-car drones, camping showers, and optional toilets. Useful and useless. Features alike were all tried. Meanwhile, the bare-shell Tesla Model 3 and Model Y, criticized for having none of these features and never receiving a major refresh since launch, have kept selling at not-so-low volumes. Chinese automakers once hoped to rebuild the pricing hierarchy through smart driving. After that failed, making larger cars and selling them cheaper became the only option left. Today, a 140,000 yuan BYD Han can compete on space with what used to be 200,000 to 300,000 yuan C. Segment sedans. Li Auto created a half-price alternative to the Mercedes-Benz GLS luxury SUV, and was then itself half-price alternative by Leapmotor. In the past, a price war was like a single day of battle. When the sun rose, order was restored. Now it's been going on for 3 years, said a luxury brand dealer executive with over 20 years in the business. This round of price war began in January 2023 when Tesla announced sharp price cuts on the Model 3 and Model Y. The next month, Hubei province rolled out government enterprise subsidies, bringing the Citroën C-segment combustion car down to the 100,000 yuan range. In May, BYD launched more than a dozen Champion Edition models like the Qin Plus, all with collective price cuts. by 2025, the cheapest models from BYD and Geely had fallen below 70,000 yuan. When price competition reaches its extreme, design innovation becomes an unaffordable risk, and each vehicle segment converges on a proven template. At this year's Beijing Auto Show, more than 30 SUVs looked like the same car in profile. A Range Rover, short front overhang, long body, nearly vertical tailgate, floating roof. For just over 200,000 yuan, you can buy such a full-size 3-row SUV stretching over 5.2 meters long and around 2 meters wide. When the products are all similar, the pressure lands first on the frontline salespeople. You should try your best to persuade everyone who walks into the showroom. Even if there's no deal, you have to put out policies that other brands don't have. A new brand salesperson relayed his store manager's directive to AT his brand. A salesperson must make at least 30 phone calls totaling over half an hour each day, conduct 3 to 4 test drives, and sell 8 to 10 cars a month. He had failed to meet his target for 2 consecutive months. One more failure, and he would have to leave. A customer walks in and says outright, "This is the 5th store I've been to today. What policy can you give me?" He said such customers have multiplied since the price war started, facing ever stricter assessments. He often has no choice but to subsidize the deal with his own commission. Piggybacking on government subsidies is another trick. Another salesperson told us you can place an order locally, issue an invoice and deliver the car in a different city, and collect trade-in subsidies and consumption vouchers. Back in 2023, there were sensational stories of young female flight attendants switching careers to Li Auto or Neo and making 100,000 yuan a month. Now, a sales trainer said his trainees are basically all men, and he's even run monk classes full of former Mercedes-Benz and BMW salesmen. To save costs, some stores already require that the air conditioning not be turned on when no customers are inside. A luxury brand salesperson with over a decade in the industry said, "At the end of the month, if a customer wants a coffee, we have to say sorry, the coffee machine's broken. The truth is we're only given 1 bag of coffee beans a month." In the middle of last year, China's State Council executive meeting proposed strengthening cost investigations and price monitoring to regulate irrational competition in the new energy vehicle sector. Central guidance teams, along with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology and the National Development and Reform Commission, held talks with heads of key automakers, demanding shorter supplier payment cycles and investigations into unfair competition. Yet by year's end, more than 4,904 dealerships nationwide had terminated their networks, and over 80% of dealers were selling cars below invoice price to varying degrees. Zhongxin Group, China's largest auto dealer, posted a net loss of 1.67 billion yuan last year. In 2024, it had been 3.2 billion yuan in profit. One investor who attended an institutional meeting in Hong Kong in early 2025 recalled that Wang Chuanfu's tone when discussing competition was resolute. By the annual shareholders meeting in June, he was at times choking up, saying BYD was his life, and that he only had this one company. Shortly after the shareholders meeting, BYD began a procure-as-needed approach, squeezing the volume it shipped to its channels. By the end of the year, net profit fell 19% year-on-year, the first decline since 2021. The pressure has also been passed upstream to suppliers. When an order, a senior executive at a global supplier once went through more than 10 rounds of price competition. In the Automakers online bidding system, the lower the bid, the higher the ranking and the more the orders. The moment someone submitted a lower price, the round was extended. What was supposed to be a 30-minute auction stretched to nearly 10 hours. In the first round, he gave up normal profit. In the second, he stripped out financial costs. In the third, he cut management expenses until the bid was slashed to the cost line. Months after winning the bid, with the molds all developed, came the annual cost down auction. Annual cost down used to be a convention. Suppliers had room to cut prices naturally after production matured and scale grew. But now it's also done through bidding, with cuts going from 3% all the way to 10 or 15%. This time, a rival bid even lower. The molds worth several million yuan went to waste that a procurement officer at a joint venture automaker used to puzzle over how others controlled costs so well. Later he discovered that while the joint venture required suppliers to experience no more than one failure per 5,000 production cycles, some automakers had relaxed that to 1 per 2,000 cycles. Retooling a supplier's production line to meet the joint venture standard would cost over $1,000,000 extra. Faced with cost pressure, solutions that were once almost impossible to get into a joint venture supply chain are now being reconsidered. Do people really believe you can cut costs by 30% and still buy the same thing? That supplier executive said. Today, cost is the #1 factor when automakers select suppliers. But when cost is compressed to a certain degree, risks are bound to rise. Subsidies or not, clearance or not, EVs can no longer escape homogenization. One think tank has calculated that since 2009, China has spent more than 1.5 trillion yuan subsidizing new energy vehicles. That works out to roughly the equivalent of fighting a food delivery war once a year, in an era when a single delivery cost nearly 10 yuan and the rider network was still immature. Delivery subsidies let consumers enjoy conveniences they otherwise couldn't have afforded. Those orders spawned a mature on-demand delivery network, and eating takeout became cheap and convenient. The subsidies for the new energy vehicle industry follow the same logic. When range was limited and manufacturing was expensive, subsidies allowed consumers to embrace EVs early, which in turn accelerated battery technology and car-making capabilities that in the end, China incubated a group of competitive brands and the world's only complete new energy vehicle supply chain. Since the end of 2023, the auto industry's contribution to China's GDP has surpassed that of real estate, making it the single largest consumption category. According to the Ministry of Commerce, when the upstream and downstream are included, the auto industry accounts for 10% of employment in China, involving tens of millions of jobs. A common view is that prolonged subsidies and local government support have prevented capacity clearance, and that simply stopping them would end the chaos. With or without support, state-owned giants like SAIC and Chang'an have ample capital. BYD, Geely, and Chery have long achieved scale. There are also new forces like AITO, Xiaomi, Li Auto, and Leapmotor, and overseas brands such as Tesla, Toyota, Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz won't disappear either. They have deep profits to keep competing, and many have already given their China teams more control. As Warren Buffett said, the auto business is just too tough. You have competitors from all over the world, and they're not going away. It seems like there's always a winner at any given time, but it never lasts. In recent years, national subsidies and purchase tax exemptions per vehicle have both been winding down. Yet companies can't stop cutting prices, and consumers are willing to spend even less on cars. The sales growth of the previous few years was itself a result of the price war. A great many consumers see the car as nothing more than a tool to get from A to B. A trusted brand and a good enough product are sufficient. Just as those Tesla executives saw in China 2 years ago, a new energy vehicle priced around 100,000 to 200,000 yuan is already extremely good enough. And the main difference now is price.it is not only in China. America, which once treated cars as a rite of passage, has also stopped attaching extra cultural meaning to automobiles. The average age of a family vehicle in the U.S. is now close to 13 years. Many industries have gone through such a transition. Televisions, aviation, personal computers. Once technology reaches a stage where all options are good enough, charging a premium becomes hard. They remain important to everyone's lives, but they are no longer good businesses. In June 2023, BYD produced its 5 millionth new energy vehicle. Wang Chuanfu took the stage and saluted competitors new and old, Geely, Great Wall, NIO, Xpeng, Li Auto, and filmed a promotional video with the slogan, "Together, we are China's auto industry." At the end of that year, Lei Jun launched the Xiaomi SU7 and also saluted BYD, NIO, Xpeng, Li Auto, and Huawei on Weibo, calling them pioneers. Over a few short years, China's auto industry, through the toil of tens of millions of people, completed the new energy revolution and also erased the differences that once existed between products in the combustion engine era. In a business like this, the approach that might make things easier for everyone may still be what Henry Ford advocated when he sparked the automobile manufacturing revolution 100 years ago. Enable more people to have the money to consume.